Welcome back to Inside the Lines. Happy Wednesday. A lot to get through today. Of course, we're going to address Deshaun Watson, what that means for the Browns, what that means for a betting perspective in general. Everyone's in the chat today to answer questions as well, so keep the chat busy. We'll get to some college football, some basketball, and all those good things. So first, I'm going to bring in Steven and Derek today. Derek, I know this is a low blow for you. How are you feeling right now with the whole situation?
I mean, it was a bummer that he's out for the rest of the season. Deshaun Watson is out. But, I mean, he did play well, 14-14 at the end of the game against the Ravens. And he also pulled out a win with a broken shoulder and a high ankle sprain.
I'm going to talk like Josh McDaniels and say, never say anything bad against the Ravens. He did it, but he scolded Antonio Pierce about saying something bad about the Patriots. All right, anyway.
So now, as it seems, it's expected that DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, is going to be the starter up this upcoming weekend against the Steelers, and his passer rating in the preseason was pretty good. It was over 100 in his first two games, and then that's why they traded Josh Dobbs. The national media is harping on the Browns trading Josh Dobbs. I think that was a bad decision, but DTR was playing well in the preseason. So Fans right now are optimistic that DTR is a better option than Walker, because Walker had the worst passer rating in all of NFL. So you can't get any worse than that.
Exactly. Yeah, you're hoping for some optimism there. Let's take a look for the grand scheme for Cleveland, what this really means. Again, I think the key things to hone in on here is after that Ravens win, they were an 85% chance to make the playoffs. Now we take them down to 63%, almost 60% now that it's not Walker as the quarterback, right, Steven?
Yeah, and the thing about the Browns
sorry, Steven. Just in, DTR is the starter.
Yeah, even though P.J. Walker statistically was bad, they did win 2 out of those 3 games. And the biggest thing is they were, even though Deshaun was throwing his fair share of interceptions. So basically they went from around a little over 1 interception per game with Deshaun to maybe as high as 1.5. So I'm not, it's a problem. But this team, they ran for 150, 155, and 160 yards when PJ Walker was the starter. The defense is probably the best in the league. And so I think that DTR and his legs and maybe some design runs, he's not Lamar Jackson, but he's 40 times coming out of college was faster than Deshaun, and he put up I think he had a double-digit rushing touchdown year at UCLA. Yeah. So this team, they're not dummies. Stefanski, fellow Penn alum like myself.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that like
he knows who's a better player.
Well, it's like you mentioned, this team's success is based off their defense and based off their running backs, and they're talking about in the chat as well. A good question here about the running back props. Now, these guys are averaging over 150 yards given with Walker and with Watson. So can they produce any more production than they already have been? Is there going to be an inflation?
Yeah. So in the model, we, looked at some of the numbers when, Dobbs actually last year started, and he had I think he had 4 to 6 carries per game, and he'd average around 30 yards rushing. So sorry, I defaulted to the Ravens page. I think that we're going to hit some overs. I don't know the lines are posted yet as of the last time I checked. But, we still have Cleveland capable of rushing for 160 yards as a team. Now, think that DTR might be in for nearly 30 of that based on what we've seen in the past and what he did in the preseason, where he had some games where he'd have like 40, 50 yards and sometimes like 5-10, but I think he's going to have to run. That's one of the reasons why they would start him over PJ Walker. And Pittsburgh's one of their defensive weaknesses is rush defenses. They're allowing a lot more yards this year than last. So I would not be surprised if Ford and Hunt and DTR over props on rushing yards are better than you might think.
Ford's been going over his prop, like I think the last 2-3 weeks. So
he's been killing it, unfortunately. Well. Yeah, and he just ran for 170 yards.
Jake brings up a good point in the chat as well. Maybe look into the receiving yards again with those short check down passes with a rookie quarterback getting warmed up. Yeah. You're probably more likely to get receiving yards than honestly.
Our team passing yards projection went down by around 40. So in terms of distribution, it could go up, but I'm still not quite sure about the actual number of yards with that metric.
Yeah, and look out for the Njoku too. He was a good target in the preseason. Well, the tight ends was a good target in the preseason for DTR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Obviously, we'll get to the props on Friday, but definitely a couple situations to look out for in this game. Derek, overall, and I guess question for you, Steven, too, is there going to be an overreaction towards the Steelers side this weekend? Do you think the public immediately sees Watson out and doesn't realize that he wasn't statistically blowing anyone out of the water to begin? So it can't be that much of a drop-off.
So I'm curious, Derek, what you think, but I noticed when we did a Sunday look-ahead show, I expected the line to go from 4.5 to Cleveland to 5.5. And when it actually went the other way to 4, we speculated, there must be concern about Deshaun Watson's status. Not to this degree, but maybe he'd be slowed down significantly. And then so it moved to 2 with the news. So I think it would have, again, if Watson was healthy, I think it would have gone to 5.5. And so the movement that we saw in the betting markets around 4 points is very similar to what our sim model was a little more extreme. We went from favoring Cleveland -6.5 to just -2. The public percentage that we received went from around 60% to Pittsburgh, now 70%. So that means of the recent bets, it's probably 90% on Pittsburgh. So I think that moved too much. And I'm curious from a Cleveland standpoint, if the public in Cleveland is high on DTR, then we might get some value if this goes down to closer to a pick 'em.
Yeah, it'll probably go down closer to a pick 'em because of the defenses. These two teams really didn't score a lot of points in their first meeting this season. So I don't expect a lot of scoring in this game. So that leaves it better for the going down to the kickers. And I will take the kicker for the Browns rather than the Steelers.
Kicker Derek. He is so back. He is so back. All right, that's all we have time for right now to talk about this injury. Any more questions, please head to the chat. Derek will be happy to answer those as well. I'm going to bring in Jake. We're going to talk some college football now. A couple storylines to go over, a lot of injuries to go over right now. We'll start with Texas. Their running back, Jonathan Brooks, is out. Now the line has moved away from Texas -8.5 to now 7.5. A lot of the public is on Iowa State. Do you think that's an appropriate reaction here for a running back?
I do, and it's usually only the really elite running backs that move lines a point or more. And Brooks, I wouldn't say he's elite. He's not a Bijan Robinson elite, but he's averaging 6.1 yards per carry, and Baxter, his backup's averaging 4.5. So there's a whole 1.5 yard difference between the two. And that adds up because they like to run the ball a lot, especially since Quinn Ewers has been banged up. His arm's not 100%. So that's why the public is all over Iowa State here. I think it rightfully moved. You could get Texas -7 at Bet Rivers, according to Steven. So I'd shop around depending on the side you like. So if you're on Texas, you could just wait and see if the line does get to -7 in other sports books and pull the trigger then.
Mm-hmm. Does our model have any value on Texas at all without him at running back?
I don't think we have much value in this game, but let me pull it up right now. We have Texas by 7, so pretty much right in line.
Right. All right, let's move to another game. A quarterback out here. Stanford's quarterback, highly questionable. So Stanford or 4.5-point dogs versus Cal. They are now 6.5-point dogs. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so when Ashton Daniels became the full-time starter, that's when Stanford's offense started to click. They came back from 29-0 against Colorado, and that was largely because of Ashton Daniels. Their backup quarterback, Justin Lamson, he's more of a running quarterback. He can't really throw the ball, honestly. And he didn't win the job at Syracuse. That's why he transferred to Stanford. And the line has moved from 4.5 to 6.5. And like Nick said, Cal's offense has been hot. They put up, I think, 42 points or 52 points, one of those two, against Washington State this past weekend. Fernando Mendoza, the redshirt freshman, has been really good. So that's why the line's moving towards Cal. And I'm assuming that this line's because Daniels is probably not going to play. And if you think Daniels isn't going to play, I would grab Cal right now.
Okay. Let's move one more quarterback who is probable now. Almost a tougher situation, tougher to bet on when you're really not sure how it's going to go. This is already Kansas has been dealing with quarterback issues all season, right?
Yeah, they've had a pretty crazy quarterback carousel this year. Daniels got hurt. Bean became the starter. And Daniels was really good last year, but Bean's been really good this year. I think Daniels is a redshirt in this year, so he'll be back next year. And Bean, I think this is his 6th year, so he's done. But this is pretty interesting because there's some reverse line movement here. And I think the public is 75% on Kansas here, but the lines move towards Kansas State from -7.5 to 8.5. So this is a really good shop around spot. Because this line's probably going to move another point or so. It could move back. I wouldn't be surprised if it moves back to 7.5. So this is one of those where you could really, if you're into arbitrage betting, you can get a good arbitrage deal if you look at the different sports books at the different prices, because this is going to be all over the place.
Right.
Yeah, the Colts GM, Chris Ballard's son, he looked all right, but he definitely isn't the level of quarterback that Jason Bean is at because he is a true freshman.
Okay. Well, lots to shop around for there. Just good nuggets to have heading into the weekend. Another situation we've been dealing with this point in the season are head coaches getting fired. We're looking at 2 situations here. Head coaches fired, Boise State and Mississippi State. Both of their lines have moved away from them. It's interesting, and I know Steven was talking about it earlier. In the NFL, you feel like you see the team morale become behind this new head coach and this new, hope and optimism. Is that the same case in college football? Like, will there really be a dramatic change here?
No, there really isn't. I went back the last couple of years. It's pretty much 50-50 whether these teams cover the spread or not when their quarterback or when their coach leaves. So it's not like the NFL where you're playing for your jobs. A lot of times the locker room's pretty much done for the season. They go and pack their bags. Boise State's interesting because they're still playing they've still have an outside shot at making the Mountain West Championship. They need a lot of things to go right, but they're still in contention. What's interesting for Boise is that they had a defensive head coach. They had a defensive head coach, Andy Avalos. They averaged 20 points allowed per game last year, and this year they're allowing 28, and that's what did them in. And Eric McAllister, who we highlighted last week, was transferring. He was entering the transfer portal. After news that Avalos is gone, he is reconsidering joining the team for the rest of the season. So that shows you that this could be a place where the players did not like Avalos, and maybe they do they reunite and they play well as a team. But I don't know. I don't think there's as much to read into it. Like, the public loves Utah State here, and I just think it's 50-50. We love Boise State in our model.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, good to know there. Like you said, it's not always going to be this dramatic situation. So maybe we see this play out a little bit. All right, that's all we have for college football. It's time to put our NBA hats on. Steven, I'm going to bring you back in to talk some NBA. A ton of games tonight. We have 8 games that we can go over. Please ask all your questions. That's what we're here to do, is answer all of those. Let's start with some situations we're seeing steam tonight with an act now play. We'll start with the Lakers money line. This line has already moved. The Kings were favored by 1, kind of a pick 'em, and now we see the Lakers -1.5.
Yeah, it's steaming because I think initially there's always concern with an older Lakers team playing on a back-to-back, but they blew out Memphis. So LeBron only played 23 minutes. AD played 27 minutes. And then I think the metrics that are driving the model has value at around Lakers -4. So this was an A-rated pick until a few hours ago. But I think people are picking up the fact that the Lakers have struggled mightily on the road, but at home they're 5-0, +9 point differential. Sacramento was a really good road team last year, but so far this season they're just 1-3. Lakers' size is making a big difference. So the 2-point percentage, usually I emphasize 3-point percentage in the NBA, but in this matchup, it's the Lakers' size, and they're shooting 59% on twos at home and allowing just 47%. To allow well under 50% on twos is really impressive and a testament to Anthony Davis's defensive abilities. So in the model, we have the Lakers. Lakers are also a good rebounding team at home and a bad rebound, and the Kings are so far a bad rebound team on the road. So act now if you like the Lakers, like I do.
Okay. Another act now situation. This is a line you can probably shop around for, but the best value right now that we have, the Sixers plus the 4.5 at home versus the Celtics. Celtics are laying 4. Again, shop around for that situation. But if you do like the Sixers, you think 4.5 is the best number you can get?
So back on November 8th, this was a top-rated pick where we liked Philadelphia to win by 3, and we win by 1, and they were like, 3 or 4 point underdogs. And nothing's changed statistically because Boston hasn't played on the road since then. So, but I don't like to double dip. I'm not gonna. So there is model value on Philadelphia based on the defensive 3-point percentage that Philly has at home and the bad 3-point percentage that Boston has on the road. It's interesting. We had in that game a strong under on Jason Tatum's points, rebounds, and assists. The line has adjusted from a consensus 42.5 in that game just a few days ago to 40.5 today. But Porzingis was the key. We had a strong over in the Porzingis points, rebounds, and assists, and he's questionable. And believe it or not, Porzingis, it's not him entirely, but in the last year plus, where obviously he played mostly in Washington, the team's point differential was plus 5.3 better in the 75 games he played than versus 17 games that he didn't play. So, and he really did really well against Philadelphia on November 8th. So he's questionable. So if you think Porzingis is out, then obviously the line's going to steam to Philly. So you want to get Philly as an underdog while you can. If you think he's going to play, then the line's probably going to stay where it is.
Okay. Yeah, I'm talking about in the chat. Embiid, his situation, do we know if he's definitely playing tonight?
I saw him clean. I know he played yesterday, and they lost a tough one at home to Indiana. But he's not traveling. Did he flop and fall on the ground? I mean, he falls on the ground 8 times a game. So
yeah, I might let Derek dissect that one and put it out in the chat just so we're for sure on that one. Let's move on a little bit. Another shop around situation. You have Dallas going to Washington. Again, a shop around moment. Is there any value that we necessarily have on this game?
I think it's going to steam towards Dallas. I think I see -6s already. The best model value I have in this game is Luka Doncic over 46.5 points, rebounds, and assists. You can get near even money. The model line has over 42. So Luka he's not on a hot streak at all, right? He's 1-5, the over here in his last 6 games. But, Washington's a team you get good on. You make good if you're struggling offensively at all. And the team total for Dallas is 124.5. The Wizards are actually allowing more points per game than Dallas averages, and Dallas averages a lot. And the big thing is a projected rebounding gap here. Dallas, we were low on Dallas this year heading into the season because of their poor rebounding differential, but Derek Lively's been rebounding well in the team overall in Luka. So I like Luka to get a couple more rebounds than he might have otherwise against in this situation, in addition to breaking out of a kind of shooting slump that he's been in.
Right.
Hopefully Jordan Poole covers him up.
Yeah, whatever that means for Jordan Poole. Let's take a look into the model. A prop here from Nick, Jared Allen over 10.5 rebounds and assists. Again, that rebounds and assist prop I like. It's getting a little more popular just to take those two.
Yeah, it looks like I think there's a little less attention from odds makers to try to refine those numbers. They rely heavily on statistical averages and not necessarily adjusting based on the team totals and pace of the game. So sorry, I went to the wrong. So sometimes my brain locks in on a player based on when I learned of them. And Jared Allen, I learned of him when he was in Brooklyn, so I still go to Brooklyn when I hear that name. I still think the Maryland's in the ACC. Literally, side note, I tried to look up the details for them and I couldn't find them because I was looking at the ACC page instead of Big Ten. Anyway, Jared Allen, what's the question?
10.5 rebounds.
We have him just at 10, period. I think the total of the game is coming down to 218.5. I think it's because Cleveland is a heavy favorite, and Portland is small and injured, so maybe there will be less need for bigs to play a role, and maybe some time of sitting. So that's why he's not getting more rebounds.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move.
The rebounds and assists combined. Oh, we love the over there.
Oh, I wasn't. Yeah, you're right. Oh, yeah, you were like. Oh, yeah, right.
We have 12. We have 12 over 12 for those.
Okay, good stuff there, Nick. Always on point. Let's move to one more game that we have some value on. Toronto playing Milwaukee. I think this is a shop around situation to get that 4.5.
Yeah, I think I saw Giannis on the injured list, and let me look at the odds jam screen. Sometimes you can tell if someone's ready to go based on any radical changes. So it's still showing 4.5s. I see 4.5s and 5.5s. So definitely a shopping situation. Obviously, if Giannis is on the list, but OG Anunoby and Gary Trent, who have missed the last couple games, or at least the last game, are probably on the injury list for Toronto. So that's gonna move the line depending on if Giannis is fine and the other two aren't. But the problem is this year's Bucks defense has been bad, especially on the road. They're 0-4 against the spread on the road. They're allowing an insane 56% defensive 2-point percentage, and 39% defensive 3-point percentage. And I don't think that's going to get any better. So if Anunoby and Trent, who are high percentage 3-point shooters, if at least one of the two are ready to go, you would think that they can boost the 3-point shooting of Toronto, which they were poor against Washington because of the injuries for most of the game, and they end up closing that game on a 21-1 run. And then on the flip side, Toronto's defense is allowing 105 at home only. So, there's value on Toronto if, again, Anunoby or Trent, one of them's ready to play, even if Giannis plays. Maybe
a team total situation as well, too, if the Bucks defense is playing that bad on the road.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. We'll see the Bucks. Let's see what. We do have value on the Bucks under if it's, I assume the team total is in the 116.5 range. Again, because Toronto is statistically a lot, excellent defending at home. Last year, they only allowed 110 at home. And Milwaukee's averaging 115, 116 road and home. But I don't think that this is a situation where you would think they would not go over their average.
Right. That's fair.
Considering Toronto's defense.
Big Cheesy, always just trying to give me a hard time in the chat with his little Michigan Wolverine game. I'm just going to let that sit. I'm going to remember all of these comments come a few weeks. All right. That's all we have time for today. We'll hit some Thursday night football tomorrow. Your Ravens are playing tomorrow, Steven. So I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about on that front. But with that said, of course, we'll have more.
Or nothing, perhaps, because I'm going to be in game mode. I might just be silent, real intense. March.
This is your first Thursday night matchup of the season, right?
Yeah. So I don't know, but luckily we lost the last game, because if we had lost, then I'd be completely convinced we were going to lose Thursday, because all my rituals that went into the winning streak would have been broken because we were not playing on a Sunday. Right. But since we lost, then all those rituals are out the door, so I could have a whole host of new ones. So whatever I do tomorrow, I'm going to do, and we win. I'm going to do that for a lot of days in a row. You're going to see whatever I wear tomorrow. If we win, you're going to see a lot of that,
All right. Well, we look forward to that. Good luck with your bets tonight. Ask us any questions on Twitter. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, 1 o'clock. More bets, more updates. We'll see you guys then.